Welcome to After the Pull, the video series where I share all my thoughts and opinions on the rest of the comic books that I read for the current comic book week. I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you love daily comic book content, if you love me helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy, you came to the right place. Hit that subscribe button, guys. And also, from August 8th through August 18th, if you guys are interested in a comic capsule Silver Age edition, you guys can save 20%. Use my promo code Slayer20. Comic capsules are a great alternative to CGC slabbing. If you don't believe in CGC, this is a great way to protect your comics. Guys, this is UV protectant. You can hang these things on the wall. Super easy to remove and put in your comic books. So why not check out comiccapsule.com? It has all of them in on the website. I'll leave the link in the description box below along with that 20% off promo code. So with that being said, guys, let's get started with this week's episode of After the Pull. Our first comic that we're talking about today is Ultimate Black Panther, guys. This is issue 7, a 28-page comic for the price of $5. Written by Brian Hill. The art is done by Stefano Caselli. The artwork is always good in this comic. In this book, opens up with lots of action. There is this war going on between the two kingdoms, obviously fighting for resources here. And who is going to get the upper hand when it comes to this war? Is it going to be Khonshu and Ra? Is it going to be T'Challa and his people? And then we find out that in order to maybe get the upper hand, that Black Panther has to go and find somebody to help him out. And it could be maybe a Doctor Strange. Maybe it could be Doctor Doom from the Ultimate Universe. I don't know. Who is going to be that character? I think we will find out soon enough. And I think this book is pretty good. Do I think it's perfect? No. I think the pace of the book is kind of slow. I don't think there's a lot that happens in every single issue that comes out. And I think it's just like, I think like this opened up with like tons of action and then all of a sudden it slowed down to a crawl, but overall it didn't really progress the story all that much. But it is still a good read. I'm still intrigued by it. I want to know what happens, how this is going to develop further. And there's not that many Ultimate books out right now to where I'm like, do I gotta start making cuts in this Ultimate universe? So at the end of the day, if I had to grade this one, I don't think it was, like I said, I don't think it was perfect, but I'm going to give this one a B-. I do want a little bit more story progression to the point where it's like, okay, let's move this along so we can get going here. So, do you guys agree, disagree? Let me know in the comments below. ThunderCats, Cheetara. This is issue 2. This book is 32 pages for the price of $5. Our writer here is So Lee, and the art is done by Domenico Carbone. I think the artwork is fine. It's really soft art, but again, it takes you back to a simpler time, and I think it's very fitting. We're learning all about Cheetara, the type of character she is, how protective she is on Lion-O, and at the end of the last issue, we got to see her having visions for the first time about maybe possibly Thundora being destroyed, and she doesn't know what to think of this, right? She's having dreams. She claims that they're possible nightmares, and she's trying to go to the right people in order to warn them, but they're like, there's nothing going to happen. We're at peace. There's nothing in. We're always monitoring everything, and she has a tough time dealing with this because again, she has this sixth sense power, and she's really using it for the first time here. So this book is actually really interesting and better than I expected. What makes this book fun is that you're getting character development of one of the major ThunderCats, or the ThunderCats, I should say, because they're all major characters. And that's kind of what I was anticipating when I first read the ThunderCats comic, and I did not get that. They just, threw you into this adventure and who the ThunderCats were and who Mumra is, and you got the mutants that are in there and everything else. I want to know more about the characters. I grew up to ThunderCats. I know them, but this is for new readers. They would feel overwhelmed, I think. And when this came out, this is everything that I wanted. And I love learning more about this particular character. So at the end of the day, this one's going to be a B+. I really enjoy it. It's better than expected. I like the art. It's very fitting. There feels like there's a doom and gloom that's going to happen. It's right around the corner, and I'm on board through this entire series. Space Ghost. This is issue 4. This book is 32 pages for the price of $5, published by Dynamite. This is another book that's been surprisingly good, like Cheetara, right? Space Ghost was that old school cartoon that I watched when I was a kid, and I thought, man, this is kind of cheesy. Doesn't match G.I. Joe. It doesn't match Transformers. Like, it's not as intense, Obviously, these cartoons are made in two different time periods, and I didn't know that when I was a kid. I just turned on a cartoon, and I know I like those other cartoons better than Space Ghost. But when you read Space Ghost comic book here, this is a book that definitely delivers, makes Space Ghost a little bit more edgier. We get introduced to more of the villains in this particular comic book. Some people will know the Space Ghost TV show, like Coast to Coast or Ghost to Ghost, or I forgot what it was actually called. But we get introduced to one of the major villains. I think his name is Zorax here, and we get to see how intimidating of a creature he is. Space Ghost goes out on a mission because he's escaped from jail, and he leaves the kids behind, and he feels like it's too dangerous of a mission. Well, meanwhile, the kids wind up getting in their own trouble, and they go out and do their own mission, and let's just say it all leads to a whole event that goes downhill, and it's to be continued in the next issue. Just really good action overall. The art is definitely phenomenal in this book. This is definitely, again, one of those books that's unexpectedly good, and it delivers every single issue here. This is definitely worth the pickup. I don't even think you have to be a Space Ghost fan to appreciate this book, because the character is written in a different way, right? So at the end of the day, I'm going to give this one a B+ as well. A solid read, great action, nice pacing, solid artwork. Overall, just an entertaining book. Ain't No Grave, this is issue 4. This is a 32-page comic for the price of $4, written by Scotty Young. The art is done by Jorge Corona. I love Jorge Corona's artwork in this series. I just am a fan of his artwork in general. Like, look at the facial expression here. You can feel the terror in Ryder's eyes. And this is super important because, yes, guys, this is a silent issue. There is no words in this entire issue except the last page. There's 2 words. And what happens in this book is we wind up seeing Ryder, who's washed up in an abandoned mine, and she basically finds herself buried in her past, present, and the future. And so Jorge Corona has to do that job at telling the story at hand here, and it's really, really good. My only downfall is when you have silent issues, they can be very powerful, and this was, but when you go through this comic book, it's like, hey man, I paid what, $5, $4 for like, 3-4 minutes. So just take your time, appreciate the artwork on what it has to offer in this comic book, and that's that. But this series has been great. I always like more. I like words better than no words, but hey, they did a great job. So at the end of the day, I'm going to give this one a solid B. I'm looking forward to more Ain't No Grave. The only sad thing is this thing is going to come to an end soon. So that's why I'm not like the hugest fan of a silent issue, but still real powerful stuff here. Scarlett, issue 3, 28 pages for the price of $4. The weakest of all the Energon Universe books, in my opinion, written by Kelly Thompson. The art is done by Marco Ferreri. There's a lot of action in this comic book. You get to see Scarlett swimming, you get to see her sword fighting, you get to see her do battle against some thugs, and I thought like the artwork was actually pretty cool, and there was some cool action sequences like this 2-page spread I thought was really, really good. What this comic book reminded me of was the last Ronin issue 1, where Michelangelo was climbing up the tower and he was defeating the clan and everything else. I feel like Kelly Thompson took a page out of that, or took the story out of that issue number 1, because that's what it felt like. She had to get to this specific spot on the floor to destroy this weapon or whatever it was that she had to do, and it was just a whole all-out action sequence. Now, the overall story was fun to read. I don't think it really progressed the story all that much, and one of the things that was disappointing was when there's a point where she had to go fight against some soldiers, and it looked like there was this one guy that was coming where she appointed him the final boss, and she's like, oh, this is gonna be tough, this is gonna be final boss material, and literally she like stabs the guy and it's like he's dead and it's over, right? So that fight was like uneventful. It was the whole climb and everything else to get to that top, which was more fun to read. But overall, at the end of the day, I mean, listen, does it progress the story all that much? No. And what's the connection to the Energon universe? We still don't know at this point. And now we're 3 issues in. We're going into the penultimate issue. We'll see. The cliffhanger was kind of cool, I guess, because you wind up getting to see a Cobra helicopter. And we don't know who's in that Cobra helicopter. So even though it was fun, it just, I don't know, man. I wanted more story out of this, and I need to know how it's connected to the Energon universe. So we'll see how Scarlett turns out. At the end of the day, I'm going to give this one a C+. It's just missing something that the Energon books, the other ones, just don't have. Gunslinger Spawn issue 34. This is a 24-page comic for the low price of $3. Written by the great Todd McFarlane. The beautiful artwork here is done by Carlo Barberi. You can't go wrong with a flaming horse, right? I mean, that's pretty badass. This book does open up with Javier and a gun pointed to his head. There's also a page in here where we get to see Javier with all the scars that he's acquired on his body over the years. And again, he's not healing because of the dead zones has expanded. So it's a really intense book. Like, check this page out. This one is really cool. I'm going to try to find the page where he has all these scars on him. It's just kind of sick, right? Like right here. So you get to see that this guy has been through some hell, right? And his whole MO here is to destroy people that killed his family in the past. And he's come across that. And he's wanted for murder now because supposedly there was this banker that was attached to people from his past that killed his family. So they're questioning him. They're trying to figure out who he actually is. He's got no record and whatnot. And then for some reason, he wakes up, he goes crazy. They put him in a medically induced coma. And then we start seeing like more flashbacks of his past. This book is great, man. I really enjoy it. I mean, yes, the story progression is a little bit slow, but it's still a beautiful book to look at, and you gotta love the character Gunslinger. He's like a mix between like a Spawn, a Logan character, and Clint Eastwood, and you got all 3 of those into one. It makes for a freaking awesome character, a fun comic book. I'm going to give this one a B+. Definitely worth the read. If you haven't read it yet, though, I would say buy a couple of trades and then go back and catch yourself up so you understand what's going on. The Incredible Hulk, this is issue 15. The legacy numbering here is 796, 28 pages, $4, obviously published by Marvel. Our writer is Philip Kennedy Johnson. The art is done by Danny Earl. So no Nick Klein on this art, on this book, but this one looks better than previous issues that he's actually done. And what this comic book is about, it's about a little tale that has taken place many years ago. I think it was like 3,000 years ago, and about the eldest and how she's come across a Hulk in the past. Obviously, kind of touching on the whole Green Door from the days of Immortal Hulk, right? And we come across this Hulk that was around, and I think this particular Hulk is a Hulk that was discussed in a one-shot during the Immortal Hulk days, and we get to see how that whole thing connects there, how the eldest actually came across this Hulk. So that was a very interesting story, and we get to see how he kind of went on the same adventure, went to the Lost City, all this other stuff. So it's very interesting, and it was funny to see like the eldest as like this little girl, and yet she was like still powerful back then. So with much improved artwork, the story's starting to ramp up. This is becoming a better book. It's definitely climbing up the ranks again, and I'm happy I stuck with it, and I'm hoping that it will pay off at the end of this whole volume here. So I'm going to give this one a solid B, and I think we'll probably get another issue of the eldest being younger, right? And this old Hulk, and then I think we're going to get back to the point where Hulk actually makes his way towards Las Vegas and hopefully winds up curing, who is it? Charlie, I think is the kid's name. So I don't know, man. We'll see, but it's getting better. The Spectacular Spider-Man. This is issue 6, 28 pages for the price of $4. Now, I did say that I was gonna possibly drop this series, but I am definitely giving it through the story arc in the beginning of the next story arc. Now, this book is written by Greg Weisman, and the art is done by Herberto Ramos. I felt like the artwork is really good. I am a fan of Herberto Ramos' art. I like the way he draws the characters. I think he has crazy facial expressions, and it's part of the reason why I am still sticking with the book right now. What this book has to offer is a story about these guys being in the fake reality where all their fantasies come true, and we've gotten to see that. Now we're in Hammerhead's fantasy where his dream is coming true, where he tries to defeat Miles Morales and Peter Parker, and he's teaming up with all the other Spider-Man villains, right? This book was very much action-packed, but at the end of the day, does it really mean anything? No, we wind up getting to see Miles and Peter just fighting some robots from like Kingpin and Felicia and Mr. Negative and everybody else like that. And then by the time you wind up getting to the end of this book, you wind up seeing them go into this like red alert where they have to, you know, all contingencies have failed and they have to bring out the big boss. And his name is Naive, right? And this is a spoiler, and this is kind of what he looks like. And now Miles and Peter have to do battle against this thing. And I was like, man, that's kind of generic and dumb. And this story is like just stretched out way too thin. This is something that could have been done by issue 5, in my opinion, okay? What made this book good for me in issue 1 and 2 was actually the interactions when they weren't Spider-Man and Miles, when they went to the coffee shop and hung out with the friends and, you know, and things like that. And here we've been so focused being stuck in this like animated world or this AI world and them just fighting their way out. For some people, that's great, and it is okay, but it doesn't need to be dragged on so much, and it doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day. And I know not all the time a comic has to have a really in-depth plot, and it has to mean something, right? But for me, this is the opening arc to Spectacular Spider-Man, and I just wanted something a little bit more out of this opening arc. It's kind of threw me for a loop a little bit. So that's why once this arc is done, I'm going to give the next arc a try, and I will make my decision then. But for me, this was just an average C. I thought this could be better. I don't know if you guys agree or not, but for me, like I said, it's just average, nothing special here. Spider-Man Reign 2, Issue 2, 28 pages for the price of $5. This one is written and drawn by Kari Andrews. I love Kari Andrews' artwork. I think it's really nice. It has its own distinct feel to it. I love the way the characters look. We get introduced to the Vulture, the Beetle in this comic book, and Peter really goes like balls to the walls on him. I mean, the dude is like really angry, okay? Now, just a warning, this series is my first introduction to the Spider-Man Reign universe, okay? I never read the first part of it. I was introduced to the first issue of this second volume for the first time. And the first issue did a decent job at trying to catch you up on what has happened and what the mission is at hand. So now we wind up seeing this new Black Cat and Spider-Man go back into time to try to fix things or undo things that basically happened, right? And so they come to the time before, I guess, Mary Jane died, right? And what happens is Spider-Man obviously totally awakens from any lag that he had from being like comatose or in this vegetative state for years and years. And once he gets into this Earth, he comes across all the bad guys and starts doing battle with them. And he is super freaking pissed off. Like, he is so freaking angry. Like, he basically like kills the Sinister Six or the Beetle or the Vulture or whatever it is. Cool art page here, kind of homage to Todd McFarlane's cover there. Personally, I'm not a fan of the trench coat and the long beard. It's a big distraction to the character. I can't stand it. So my whole time that I'm reading this book, I'm like, okay, let's shave the beard, right? Let's get a costume. Let's get out of the underwear and stuff like that. We also get introduced to this character here, which I'm not sure who he is. Is that like Ben Reilly or something? Like, I don't know who that guy is, right? And so the whole time, the one thing that bothered me about this comic is that Peter is looking for MJ, and I get it. He lost her. He wants to find her. He wants to make sure she's going to be okay before she dies. And he is so angry. And we see a big time death in this issue, which I couldn't believe actually happened. I didn't think they would actually go there. He finds the costume. And the funny thing is when he finds a costume in this book, he doesn't get rid of the trench coat, right? He actually still wears the trench coat. And instead of like cutting the beard or trimming the beard, right, he just goes out there and just still wears the mask like he did before. And that kind of bothered me also. Like, why would you not get rid of the trench coat, dude? Makes a visit to Aunt May, which actually was a very touching situation. Here, you could feel the emotion, so I thought that was kind of cool. And then the end here, and this is a huge spoiler, was you get to see Spider-Man come across Venom, okay? And we find out that Venom is not the traditional Venom that you're used to seeing. It's actually Mary Jane. So how did she possess the Venom symbiote? It's still yet to be determined. But you know what? This book was pretty cool. I did not agree with some of the things that happened in this comic book, even though I understand why Peter is so angry. So I have really mixed emotions about this book. So at the end of the day, again, I think I'm going to give this one like, it's really a in-betweener for me, between a C+ and a B-, because I think this is good. I just think it's very erratic-like, and he did that series Erratic, where it's all over the place, it's in your face, it's fast, it's just action heavy, and I feel like it relies on the Venom symbiote to get people's attention again. And I think we need to get away from that by just sticking Venom in in a new host and being like, oh my god, now it's Mary Jane, oh my god, it's Eddie Brock, oh my god, it's Dylan, oh my god, it's Flash Thompson. Like, we need to do things that are different besides the symbiote, right? And so I get it, I like the twist in a way, but at the same time, it's like, it's not original. So I know I'm always the one that's real picky about Spider-Man, but that's just my thoughts on this one. Wolverine Deep Cut, issue 2. This is a 28-page comic for the price of $4. This book does take place, I think, between like Uncanny X-Men 240 something and 251, something like that. It is mentioned in the comic, so this is an old story, and it's written by Chris Claremont, and the art is done by Edgar Zalzar. The artwork is really good in this comic. Here we get to see the Marauders, because in this book we wind up getting to see Wolverine do battle against them. And the nice thing that Claremont does in this book is he reintroduces you to these characters in case maybe you haven't read about them, in the past, in the original X-Men comics, and how much of a pain in the ass they are to Wolverine. Now, the reason why Wolverine is going after the Marauders is because in the last issue, he fought Sabretooth, and he realized that Sabretooth wasn't the real Sabretooth. He was too easy to defeat. He got a scent of the Marauders, and he goes to this specific laboratory or this building, and he goes deep into it, and there are all the Marauders. And in this entire issue, you just wind up getting to see fight after fight after battle between all the different Marauder characters, right? Really good, really a lot of fun. Freaking Wolverine winds up getting misshapen and stuff like that, which was kind of cool. But at the end of the day, Wolverine prevails, and we find out, of course, that Mr. Sinister is behind something, and the Marauders are not quite what they seem as well. This book is a lot of fun. So if you love classic X-Men, if you love Claremont writing, and you're tired of all the, new X-Men stuff, this is what you got to go for, right? Because you're going to get decent stories from the guy that wrote all these characters. So definitely a great book. I'm going to give this one a solid B, a nice little throwback mini to make you remember the old days of the X-Men. Batman issue 151, the Absolute Power tie-in. This is a 40-page comic for $5, published by DC, written by Chip Zdarsky. Mike Hawthorne, gets the art duties on this. No Jorge Jimenez. And it definitely does hurt the book, right? When you get Jimenez on the artwork, the book is like next level. Without his artwork, it's just not quite the same. There's so many great scenes in this comic book that just could have been absolutely spectacular. But nevertheless, this was a cool story. This was actually a lot of fun getting to see Catwoman and Bruce Wayne team up once again to try to hopefully stop Amanda Waller. Now, if you've been reading Absolute Power, you understand that Amanda Waller has this mother box, and we wind up getting to see Bruce and Selina try to recover that. And what they have to do is they have to go deep undercover to go to this specific base, get information, and then obviously to get past the Suicide Squad. And they wind up going into like this nowhere place, right? And I thought it was awesome leading up to that. It was really a lot of fun, lots of action, and I have been thoroughly impressed with the Absolute Power tie-ins for the most part, and I'm looking forward to more. Like I said, artwork wasn't maybe on par, but the story was. So definitely recommend this one. I'm gonna give this one a B+. This probably would have been an A book if it wasn't for that artwork. But I want to know if you guys are enjoying Absolute Power, and are you enjoying the tie-ins? Absolute Power! This is issue 2, 40 pages for the price of $5. This book is written by Mark Waid. The art is done by Dan Mora. Oh my gosh, did this comic have so much in it, or what? At this point, we have all these particular DC superheroes captured, all the ones in red. These ones are the ones that are left, and some of them still have their powers left, right? And obviously, Amanda Waller's MO is to capture every metahuman that there is. Meanwhile, we're on the Fortress of Solitude, where we have all our former Justice League members trying to decide who's going to lead the team. They're like a bunch of freaking children, right? It was absolutely hilarious. And there's the one scene where they go, oh, this is the biggest mistake that we could have ever done, is gotten rid of the Justice League, and now we can't even get along with each other. That was absolutely hilarious. But then here comes freaking Nightwing on his soapbox saying, hey, can we just all get along? And I thought that was hilarious. That was like some Cheese Whiz action movie moment, right? Maybe this is not a Cheese Whiz movie, but it's like an Independence Day movie, like Independence Day, right? The president gets on there and he goes, this is time where we gotta fight for our country. We gotta do this. We gotta all band together. And everyone's like, yeah, Nightwing. And Batman is kind of like, that's my boy, you know? So there's some funny moments in there. Not like hysterical, but a little cheesy, right? But nevertheless, when you think like the heroes are gonna rally, all shit hits the fan. We wind up seeing freaking Brainiac Queen come with cybernetic John, just basically annihilating everybody, and then you get to see everyone's back against the wall. They're on their heels, they're losing the battle, and I absolutely freaking love that shit. I thought that was so much fun. Here comes the Amazo robots. They're taking away more powers, more people are being captured. Just absolutely awesome. Now, the one thing that I had an issue with in this particular book was there was a lot of action, and maybe you would get lost in that action ever so slightly, where you couldn't quite make up what was quite going on in certain instances, right? And nevertheless, though, it was a fun read, and I cannot wait for the next issue. So at the end of the day, I think I'm going to give this one an A. Not quite an A+, because again, there was some little, like, cheesy moments, like I said, and you get lost in some of the action scenes, but it ended off on a cliffhanger, and I love how the Brainiac Queen has taken John hostage here, and Superman is just kind of like beside himself, and he doesn't know what to do, and our heroes are in other places right now, and the Fortress of Solitude is destroyed. What a freaking great comic book. Fuck that. I'm gonna change it to A+, baby. This is a fun book. It just is. Like, I feel like this is everything that DC could have asked for, right? I mean, you're getting ready for the Absolute Universe. You got this nice event that's leading into it. I think they're doing a great job. And yeah, just have fun, enjoy the ride, and let's see where it goes. So what do you think, webheads? The original version of After the Pull is back. We got to discuss all the comic books this week. Did you enjoy the show? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. And also, there's more content for you to click on. And of course, guys, support the local comic shops. Keep buying, keep collecting. But always remember, read those comics so we can have great comic conversation. Guys, thank you so much. I will see you on the next one.